And I'm going to start off with the worst for sure, because there's a little movie that broke the 0% record at its premiere. Zach did tell me, just so you know, Art, it did go up, and I was like, all right, how much? He said 9%. We're still not at double digits. Zach, tell me about the Borderlands movie, if you ever played the games, what you were even anticipating for this thing, and any explanation for why the cast is so stacked.
I mean, you know, as far as cast is so stacked, I believe the budget of this movie was reported to be around 115 million. So this is no like cheap endeavor or like cast off. Like this was at least hoped to be like a big release at one point, and it has just gone through so much delays in terms of production and recutting and stuff like that. I think we were talking on last week's podcast that when Cate Blanchett was filming her role for this movie, she was in prep for Tar. Man. So tells you a bit about just how long this one has sat on the shelf, and for good reason, I guess. Borderlands, based on the popular 2K games. I never played them. Did you ever pick up a copy?
You know, it was around the part where everyone was like playing it, and I told you I was getting it confused with Overwatch and stuff. I remember getting it for the Xbox. But you know, when I go to the theater, I love seeing my favorite movie studio, 2K, up on the big screen.
Yeah, exactly. Just really lets you know that you're in for like a quality ride at the cinema.
Then you're ambling.
Are there any other 2K films? I'm trying to think.
Has to be, because of just it has to be. But this is the one we're remembering right now.
Exactly. So Borderlands, at least in the movie, takes place on a fictional planet where a ragtag group of missionaries and treasure hunters and robots and what have you seek to uncover great fortune, whether that is through kidnapping or bounty hunting or treasure vault diving or stuff like that. You know, this is a like world full of adventure and characters who are quick to shoot a gun and dispatch an enemy. It's got the kind of like elastic, rubbery violence that I think you expect in this style of video game adaptation. It's sort of along the lines of like how Matthew Vaughn directs his movies, in the way that they dispatch the violence here, though not nearly as stylish as what you get from a Matthew Vaughn movie. I don't know. We also talked about director Eli Roth about on last week's podcast. You were talking about how you're a big fan of his politics. I was saying how like he's sort of hit or miss, right? And I'm just trying to be annoying. He's sort of this director who hasn't really done like a lot of stuff we love, like not a lot of stuff we hate either, like a lot of middling things. I think we were both kind of positive on Thanksgiving.
Great friends with, like, he's got fantastic peers in the industry. He's got that AMC horror docuseries. Like, he's well versed, right? Married to one of the co-stars from Knock Knock. Put our girl on the map also in that movie. Like, I see what you mean. He's like somewhere in the middle. He's in Inglourious Basterds. Like, he's also an actor in a lot of things.
Like, he's not incompetent at staging a set piece. I thought the action was like mostly serviceable, but he's also not like a David Leitch or a Chad Stahelski out here putting together really impressive oneers.
Good thing you mentioned that. You were talking a little bit about the history leading up to him, that there is a writer who's not even on this. The Craig Mazin of it all?
Right, yeah. Craig Mazin was one of the screenwriters of this story, but if you watch the end credits of the movie, you will not see his name there. He requested to take his name off of this movie, so he's sticking to the one video game adaptation. He doesn't want to pollute that.
That's insane. And for those of you who don't know, Craig Mazin has he is stacked with Chernobyl. It's funny because you look at his early stuff.
The Last of Us, most notably, and most recently.
And The Last of Us recently. Yeah. But like, he started with The Hangover, Identity Thief.
Yeah.
So it's almost like he knew better than to go back.
I think he's got some like screenwriter stolen valor. People talk about him like he's like one of our great writers. This dude was like slumming it in terrible comedies for the better part of like 2 decades until he became like an HBO prestige TV guy. Yeah.
I heard a little bit in the background that those were the ones he was getting credited for, but in reality, there was a lot of what's it called? He was doing a lot of script writing. He was a doctor for a lot of real scripts. So like the ones that he didn't get credited for that are out there, they were like, no, he actually was doing some good stuff. Got the bad credits. And then he
He's
got the
also
big shows.
notably the co-host of the Script Notes podcast, which is maybe the best podcast for screenwriters out there. So
Really?
worth noting if there are people out there who are like
Why?
aspiring screenwriters. Him and John August, I
Okay.
believe, still co-host that podcast.
Well, hopefully he's got a good release out this week because it ain't this one.
Yeah.
He stripped it out. I suppose he put a pseudonym in there, but he won't tell you that that is him. It went through so many script writes, but the one that really surprised me is that the movie ends and I see this boy in the credits. And I'm like, no, hold on. If anybody could have done this movie and this weird tone that they're going for, it would have been this dude, Tim Miller, who did Deadpool, who's worked on Love, Death, and Robots. I then look him up, and it turns out that they're trying to do this like Matthew Vaughn thing, which is funny that you mentioned him as well. This idea that he came in and also filmed some stuff about over Eli Roth as well.
Right.
I think that's why it just feels like a mess, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely, especially considering the long release, like there's probably been a bunch of reshoots. It does feel like there's a bunch of ADR narration going on here, stitching this thing together. I will say that like structurally, it like isn't the worst, right? Like I get the story, like it is pretty like standard commonplace, but
Yeah, it's got bumpers.
Yeah, but
crazy.
Yeah, but like I get the stakes. It's just a little bit like it's a little bit lacking personality. It's like a little bit almost feels like placeholder, like the amount of idioms in this movie, people saying like, yeah, you and what army and things like that have been in a million movies before and don't distinguish this one at all.
At this.
Exactly. And yeah, it doesn't really do enough to stand out. It feels very like I don't know, I don't want to say first drafty, but like they could have explored deeper and gotten more interesting stuff, and instead it just sort of they're relying on the IP again, like not knowing the games that in depth. I feel like there was a bunch of shout outs to things that I was like, all right, this doesn't really matter to me.
But isn't the worst part when you're sitting there knowing that it's not for you? But
exactly.
You can even feel that they don't like it either, who it is for.
Totally.
That's bad.
I don't know. And I would say though, like, despite its like terrible Rotten Tomato score, I think that's like a little exaggerated. Like I didn't have the worst time at this movie. There's a lot of movies that annoyed me more this year. It's not that this one's good. But I don't know. It's got a lot of serviceable actors in it. Although I do want to talk to you about like what some of these people are doing and whether or not you think they're doing good things. Most notably, we have Cate Blanchett. What Cate Blanchett is doing in a movie like this one, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I guess she did do Hela in the third Thor movie, but that turned into, you know...
Yeah, don't talk smack on my girl Hela.
That's perhaps the most iconic villain, right? So this is... and like she's game for this movie, but I couldn't help but feel, despite thinking that Cate Blanchett might be like the best actor working right now, just how like miscast she is here. I was actively reimagining the movie with Sandra Bullock in the lead role, and granted, I don't think Sandra Bullock would have taken this part, but it's the kind of actor that would have actually been game for this kind of role and known what to do with it, known how to inject it with a little bit more fun, I think. Am I wrong to think that?
No, because I think there's only one actor who's truly having a blast, and it's none of the adults. You see her come in this fake orange red hair that she's supposed to have to emulate the character, and you just don't feel her. I think everyone, like you're saying, is making these comparisons that Tar would come afterwards, and there's a really big point in Tar where they actually do cross over into video games. And it almost feels very meta that she's in this, clearly not invested. You're telling me the story about that she only did it out of COVID and she was bored. This movie's been sitting out there. So she's a part of this thing where she's kind of above it. And because her talents are so above it, they're not using her to her full potential, nor does she fit the environment that is, hey, do you know this ragtag team of stuff that we can do? It's not that you can't fit into stuff like that, because I don't like Don't Look Up. But she came in there to play a role alongside, what was it, Tyler Perry? She's able to do something in there. Exactly. Here, it's like, bro, are you even in these scenes? There are points where she goes full CGI, dude. It was some Dark Phoenix stuff. It felt like a digital double that these Hollywood productions keep using. That made me think there is no reason for you to have Cate Blanchett here. None of her lines are delivered in a way where you need a multi-Oscar winning actress. No. Anybody could have done that job. So why her? I was very disappointed with it. And then you see that they're trying to make this a longer kind of franchise. And the only thing I can think of is looking at the sets here, it's on a green screen box. It's the next best thing to voice acting.
Right.
So maybe this was her, I don't know, role to be like, hey, I would like to do Borderlands 2, 3,
Yeah,
4.
I'll cash that check
with
and
that.
go film a couple more TARs because I'm
Yeah.
sure those aren't paying the same.
And I agree with you because you're at that level where it's like we always say the lukewarm stuff are the worst. Something that truly isn't the worst thing that came out this year, because you and I see enough movies to know the difference. And this one is frustrating because like I see everyone giving it the half stars, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I feel crazy wanting to defend the movie to be like, just like you,
Right?
0%. Actually, it's 9%.
Yeah.
I see y'all giving it a half, but it's like a measly 1.5.
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
2.
You're doing this movie wrong. It should be at least 2 stars out of
The
5.
most pointless battle to give it. And it's like, yeah, I was like bored by it. I was upset with it. It made no sense. But it never crossed the line of me going like, this is the worst movie of the year. And that made me more frustrated with it. That there's a little bit of a competence there. And it doesn't go anywhere. But all of it feels fake. I saw someone mention the Guardians of the Galaxy bit, and I felt that here as well. And I'm going to compare it to another movie. I don't know if something precedes Guardians where you could say that you have that ragtag team with those specific personalities. I'm sure that there is, but I think Gunn really revolutionized that with what he did in 2014, that we've seen it in Dungeons and Dragons. I think you look at that movie, beat for beat, even some jokes, and I have no problem with that because they took the model and did something with it. This is the most embarrassing. Here comes this big dude who's kind of like Drax. He doesn't know irony. He's just this big dude, and he's taking care of the smaller character there. This girl literally played Gamora, the young Gamora in Guardians of the Galaxy. You got your Starlet, you got everything. You got Rocket up there. What's the point? If you're just assuming that the video game fans are going to add whatever they're bringing into it, and that you're going to remember a better movie that this is very similar to.
Right.
Sometimes they make novels for an upcoming film or a game. Now they're making whole feature films just as a little side quest for you to go see something. I feel bad for the gamers because clearly they did not like it. I don't see what this has for regular audiences. And again, it's funny because they're trying to get it at all angles. The other character here is Kevin Hart. He's technically one of the first people that you meet, and then just get sidelined.
Yeah, he does. And it's funny, like, going into the movie based on the trailers and sort of based on the tone of the film and the look of it, I kind of expected Kevin Hart to be the lead and Cate Blanchett to be more of a side character. And instead it's flipped.
And then they flip it, yeah.
Yeah. I do want to talk a little bit about Kevin Hart here, too, because, like, he's not doing a lot of his usual Kevin Hart stuff. Like, he's not like a clown in this movie. He is kind of like a tough guy soldier. Like he's sort of more in that mold. Like they make fun of him a little bit, but there's no like high pitched screaming or flop sweat or waving of his arms. And it reminds me again of like the role that he had in the Netflix original movie Lift, which again was like a very straight down the middle performance
pattern.
And I'm wondering, like, is this Kevin Hart trying to escape the Hollywood prison Kevin Hart has put himself in?
Yeah, wow. His own little Will Smith moment. He needs to slap another comedian at an award show. That'll do it. That'll restructure it all. I feel I did not get anything out of him. And it's this like split thing because I'm also not asking for a Kevin Hart in space movie. That'd be really weird. And I felt that's what we got with Jack Black.
Yeah.
Look, I don't want to hate on him because it's never the worst. We had this with Bowser. He's doing his rendition of Bowser. Now he's doing his rendition of whatever this character is, right? How'd you feel about that? He's this talking android box that just can do anything. At a certain point, the box looks at you and says, don't mess with the merchandise. And then you walk out and your AMC selling $30 buckets. Of this thing.
And that's the thing is that like the character, from the way he's introduced to the way he's just sort of always ready with a little quip, feels very much in the mold of like trying to find like the fun, the Rocket Raccoon, if we're going to continue the Guardians of the Galaxy of this all, of this, the guy who has like the quippy line, and like, because they give him all the jokes during, tense moments or action scenes and stuff like that. Yeah, there's a couple that made me chuckle. I thought it was kind of funny that it hit, at least from a vocal standpoint, I thought he was almost doing like a Wallace Shawn impression. The guy from Princess Bride and stuff. He sounded a little bit of that to his voice. Yeah. But like for the most part, it's just grating. Like it's so try hard. There's so much effort. Like it's that guy who has to crack a joke at every single bit. even if the joke's not funny, and you just after the fifth failed joke, you kind of want them to just quiet down, calm down a little bit.
Well, the worst part is he's not even there. He's doing this in a voice booth. He's improvising with people who recorded their scenes probably weeks before.
Yeah, and sometimes it even feels like the rhythms of the editing of the movie don't really allow for the line. They're really squeezing it into the gap between other people's dialogue.
Multiple directors, multiple writers, too much stuff going on here. It's the worst part of it. Did we even mention the aspect of it being rated R and trimmed down to PG-13?
Oh, I don't think we have yet.
Horrendous. Another red flag in what this was doing. But there's that aspect of the robot always singing too. And that was where I was like, oh, gotcha. They really let you ad-lib then. And it's always like the same thing, just scrubbing. He was doing the Dory. Just keep swimming. And it was the same jingle for whatever action it needed to do. And I was just like, okay. Look, I hate to say this, but I don't know if you saw the popcorn bucket.
I actually didn't.
It's actually the best thing to come out of this movie, bro. The book has got like these little clips. I got to pull it up for you, but it's actually not that bad. They have, it gives you the ability to hold your like ticket and snacks.
That's cool.
But as
that'll
I pull
be
that
Borderlands
up,
legacy, I guess.
I guess so. As I pull that up, explain to me why Jamie Lee Curtis was here. Why they had her bursting out too? Because some of the costumes, for no reason, she's like tinkering with stuff, and they got her over here with a push-up. Explain to me.
Well, that's I guess like a nod to the sexualization of video games, right? Maybe
it was so random, bro.
It's so weird. I don't know. To be honest, like I didn't mind Jamie Lee Curtis's performance here. I think she does always bring kind of like a different energy to her different roles. Like this, you can't mistake this for like the tax lady from Everything Everywhere All at Once or the mom from The Bear or anything like that. It's just such like a poorly written character who is literally there just to deliver exposition. Like every single line she has, it is like, wait, explain what the next thing in the plot is for us, please. And
he's not lying. The ending literally is her looking at the camera, but it's the main character, and she gives you the ending explained. I actually had it wrong.
Yeah. It's a tough character.
Ooh, yeah, like usually it's ADR. The lines they gave her are the ADR afterwards, where they're like, "Oh, the test screening didn't get to say it."
Yeah, we got to clarify a couple things.
She said it on set. I found the popcorn bucket over here. It's actually it's not bad, bro. Like it actually holds on to the stuff. I don't know if you can see it fully there.
Yeah.
It's got these little clips right here. It's holding the drink and your M&Ms.
That's pretty dope.
Way more functional than anything you're going to get out of this movie, but I'm still not recommending it at $30. There's too many popcorn buckets out there, and there's too many other movies to catch to be wasting your time with Borderlands. But I'll end with one positive thing, and that's that I think Ariana, she did the best part of it. Ariana was out there in particular playing the character who's supposed to be like the key, the mission, who's supposed to like the thing that they need to actually solve the problem and find this vault, because it's like a Ready Player One story where everyone's in this planet, they've scavenged it to bits, and she may be the secret that they need. She's the only one who has the tone that fits the movie. Mm-hmm. She feels like she did this without getting paid, like she was just in a sandbox having fun, and I did not feel that from the adults. The adults felt like they were there doing the movie before they do the one they want. Yeah. She actually felt like she enjoyed it, and I think that's a shout out to her, because I don't think she's taken a bad role yet. She's been doing a lot of the young roles for big actresses, and now she's coming to her own.
Still only 16, and when she filmed this, she might have been like 11. She's definitely got a bit of the like Chloe Grace Moretz as hit girl energy in this part. But yeah, provides a little bit of spark that is lacking from some of this movie. Like maybe a little bit obnoxious, but like it's something,
There's a tone the rest need for the movie, and they weren't getting it. But she had that very Harley Quinn energy coming to her. But
definitely
overall,
so yeah, you're going what 2 stars on it? Sorry, you said 1.5 stars. I think I'd go 2 stars, but I'm down to make our cumulative score on the Intercut letterbox a 1.5.
What'd you give it?
I think I'll go 2, but maybe I'm being a little generous. It probably is more of a 1.5.
I'm going 2 too, so we got to go 2.
Okay.
We got to be honest with it.
Yeah, we're the biggest fans of Borderlands.
And I've told you this, bro. I get a lot of flack because I personally, over my profile, if I may, let me just put this over here. We see a lot of movies, so I get a lot of people who always give me trash for having too many 2 stars right there on my rating list. Y'all just don't see enough movies. If you see enough movies, you will realize that's the most that we've got is that 2 right there. Mm-hmm. And Borderlands is to blame. Thank you, Zach.
People just need to be unafraid of the bottom half of the ratings scale. Like,
It is. It's the truth.
so many people only want to use 2.5 up. Like, it's not. 2 stars doesn't have to be an insult. There are things we liked about Borderlands. It's not a good movie.
Here's us actually praising something, not belittling something down to a 2, but actually raising it up to a 2.
Right, exactly.
Borderlands, if you're curious on it, let us know where you would want to see it go. And if you actually recommend the games for the actual gamers out there.
Yeah.
At least it shines some light there. Hopefully it's on sale or something.